How do you follow up a tragedy? For nearly a decade, the Resident Evil franchise grounded us in the intimate, horrific nightmare of Ethan Winters. We survived the mold of Louisiana and the lichens of a forgotten European village. But at the end of the Resident Evil Village, Capcom pulled the camera back, pointing a threat far larger and far older. The very organization built to fight the bioterror had become it. With Resident Evil action of the remake timeline, this wasn't just another outbreak, it was an invasion. Let's dive deep behind enemy lines and break down the evolution of the RE engine, the intricate map design, and the evolution of enemy AI, and why Resident Evil 9 serves as the ultimate, terrifying crescendo to the franchise's modern renaissance. Before we talk about the horror, we have to talk about the technology. Since 2017, the RE engine has been Capcom's secret weapon, delivering some of the most optimized, photorealistic visuals in the industry. But Resident Evil 9 represents a generational leap. The developers clearly focus heavily on volumetric lighting and fluid dynamics. The environment reacts to you, shadows are no longer just baked in dark spots, they are dynamic hiding places for both you and the enemies. The gore system has been completely overhauled, drawing inspiration from the Resident Evil 2 remake. Enemies don't just take damage, their character models dynamically degrade, muscles tear, armor shatters, and biological mutations happen in real time, right before your eyes. It is a sickeningly beautiful display of graphical power that grounds the supernatural horror in a gritty, believable reality. This isn't, me just dick riding, Capcom, even though kinda am. But ever since Capcom decided to fucking lock in with Resident Evil 7 and the engine itself too, you can see the graphical increments, the generational leaps between each game. Granted, not that much from Resident Evil 7 to Resident Evil 8, but you can still see the changes and the upgrades that the engine is getting, because you can see it when you're playing the game. And that also includes the remakes with Resident Evil 4 especially, because that one was extremely highly regarded. So the evidence is there. It's not just, me, like I said, it's not just me, glazing them. But it is glazed, but it's deserved. Like, they're actually trying their best to not reinvent the franchise, but to bring it back from, I wouldn't say the dead, but it wasn't at its peak as it is now, or when it first started. The level design here is almost Metrovania-like compared to the other games. Wherever you go in the game, whether it be the sewers, the BSAA, the mansion in the beginning of the game, you're always constantly going back and forth to same locations to open new areas or to discover new secrets. And that's one of the things that makes this game one of the best ones in the franchise, because it takes elements of every single game and puts it into one complete package. I wouldn't compare it to like Smash Ultimate, where everyone is here. But they really took the best parts of each game and put it in one pretty good game. And one of the main things they implemented was the first/third person view of the game. You can play in first person like Ethan Winters, and it's more immersive. It's much scarier in first person than it is in third person. And then you can even play as Leon in first person, but it kind of feels, the way I played the game, it was the way it was kind of intended, the way developers intended it. But I also, because I felt myself that it was the best way to play, in my opinion. I played the chick's version in first person, Grace. I played her part in first person, and it really made the game really fucking scary. Honestly, like looking back at it, I don't think the game was that scary in first person. I think the only bit of the game that was scary was when you were underground, when the girl took Emily. That part was scary, but everything else was alright. It wasn't like terrible. And then when you play as Leon, it's third person, it's action packed, it's he's like fucking Van Helsing or Blade. Like, he's just fucking shit up with guns and stuff. So it's not as scary to play as Leon because you have a giant fucking arsenal. So nothing's really a threat unless you suck dick at the game. But nothing's really a threat since you can kill them. And if you compare that to Grace, not only is the first person view like much more immersive, and her parts of the game are genuinely more scarier than Leon's, but also it's the more survival aspect of the Resident Evil games where you have limited ammo, limited health, limited everything. So you really have to keep track of what the fuck you're doing and use your ammunitions and your supplies wisely. And getting more into the gameplay, now that we're kind of touching on it, the biggest challenge for Resident Evil 9 was mechanical. How do you make a game terrifying when your protagonist is a heavily armed, elite special forces operator? The answer lies in technical dread. Capcom perfectly blended the heavy, methodical resources management of Resident Evil 7 with the fluid, parry-focused combat of Resident Evil 4 Remake. Of course, Leon still has his assault rifles and flashbang and a bunch of other weapons and gadgets, but it's still scarce to find ammo and the crafting materials to build them. The axe breaks if you don't sharpen it or if you parry or attack with it too much. Your armor takes damage and you have to repair it. You're not a superhero. You're an isolated soldier fighting an army of unkillable biological weapons. Something I do know for sure, in this game, there's like a new stealth system or a revamped stealth system where shooting out lights or moving slowly can definitely help you. And also there's the sneak attacks. I don't really remember if this was a thing in the previous games, if I'm being honest. I mean, it has been a minute since I played the other games, so I don't exactly remember if that was a thing in the past or not. A survival horror game lives and dies by its monsters, and Resident Evil 9 introduces some of the most grotesque, intelligent BOWs in the franchise's history. We aren't just fighting mindless zombies or crazed villagers, we are fighting weaponized bioweapons, creatures designed specifically for combat. The enemy AI has received a massive upgrade. They will flank you, communicate with each other, and react to your flashlight. If you barricade a door, they won't just bang on it, they will find a vent to crawl through. This dynamic AI means no two encounters ever play out exactly the same way. Of course, lots of games have this feature, like, it's not something groundbreaking, it's not new tech, but for a franchise like Resident Evil, it's pretty cool. It's pretty like, okay, finally you guys did something with the zombies or the bioweapons. Instead of the enemies just kind of like wobbling towards you, they actually like run at you or try to evade you, or they seem almost alive in a sense. I think the giant spider kind of flanks you in that one part of the game. Basically what I'm trying to say is that the enemy AI has greatly improved compared to the other games, and it made the game a bit more difficult. Actually, it made the game more of a challenge and less of a just run away and survive or just shooting ahead and survive. Not only was the enemy AI amped up, but also the way their audio works. They made, I think it's called quote-unquote 3D audio, but it's just better surround sound, that type of shit. You can hear stuff better on your surroundings, especially if you have like a surround sound, system, or you're playing it with a headset. You can actually hear things much clearer and much more detailed if it's on your left, your right, behind you, stuff like that. Amidst the chaos, the game brilliantly paces itself with puzzles, returning to the franchise's roots. These aren't just simple find the red key tasks, they involve deciphering complex BSAA terminal codes, rerouting power grids, and examining artifacts in 3D space to find hidden switches. These quiet moments of cerebral problem solving provide a crucial, albeit brief, moments to catch your breath. And yeah, Resident Evil has always been a big player or developer, I guess, not player, in the space of putting puzzles in their games. A lot of developers, even non-puzzle games have like little mini puzzles here and there to like give the player a little bit of a challenge. And Resident Evil isn't, a stranger to that. For a while, they have been slowly adding puzzles. I think they started adding puzzles with Resident Evil 7. Because I don't remember doing that many puzzles in Resident Evil 4 or any others before. I could be wrong. Like I say, it has been a while since I played them. But I think if I'm correct, I think the first time they started adding puzzles was with Resident Evil 7. And they keep adding more and more. And some were even kind of complex. Not complex enough like, Portal level of puzzles where, that's an actual puzzle game. But they were a bit of a challenge, but they were fun. They did, it was a break from the traditional gameplay of the game. So it was like a refresher, a pause, if you will. As much as I've been, glazing the game and glazing Capcom, Resident Evil 9 isn't, flawless. It's not perfect. There are some issues, especially story-wise, but there are some issues with the game that obviously don't deter it from being a great fucking game or possibly one of the greatest in the franchise. But nothing is perfect. Literally nothing is perfect. So there are some things that the game is like, okay, I guess, type of shit. This next bit of the script that I'm about to read, I wrote it because it's what some of the community feels like, some of other reviewers / videos say about the game. I personally, I get what they're saying, but it's not something I'm like, who cares? Like, it's whatever. It's not really like a big deal, but that's what people are saying. In the final few hours, the delicate balance of survival horror and action become gray. The last part of the game becomes very action-packed, very Michael Bay-esque, if you will. While the gunplay is incredibly satisfying and the boss designs are visually spectacular, the sheer volume of enemies and ammunition provided in the climax strips away the tension of the first 2/3 of the game, but it's still good, like I said. It is a thrilling conclusion, but pursuits may lament the departure from the creeping dread that defined the opening. And this is where I kind of take, I wouldn't say issue, but I kind of disagree with this take, because I feel like when you play a Resident Evil game, you're playing through stages. You start out alone in a cave or in a house or getting to that setting, right? And then that's stage 1. And then stage 2 is you're discovering more of it. You're either in the sewer, you're in the attics, you discover a secret passage or whatever. And in the third act, that's when you're like, holy shit, this is the end game. There's a bunch of shit going down. So I feel like the way Capcom develops their games is by sections, and I feel like people didn't like click with this part of the game because, yeah, Grace's portions were very stealth-like, very calm. Leon's were action-packed, but they were still balanced with the survival horror aspect of it. But in the third act, it's just Call of Duty for them, and I can see why, but I tend to disagree. Maybe it's a hot take. I don't know. I did see that some of the criticisms also were part of the story, and I agree. There were some bits that kind of didn't make sense. It was kind of convoluted. It was easy to follow. It was concise. It was a good story, but it wasn't a perfect story. Especially the part where they kind of misled you, and a good example, like I said, they misled you in thinking that Grace was a clone, right? Like, all these clues pointed that the Grace was a clone, and like she was part of the kids that like Emily was part of. She was part of that orphanage. Especially since you find all these notes and DNA and reports that say that Grace's DNA was a perfect match, and that's in the implication that she was one of the orphans. Turns out she's just a regular fucking chick. She's just a regular girl. So I don't know what the fuck that was about. There are other things that make the story a bit like, but overall, again, this is one of the best games I've ever played. It's one of the best Resident Evil games I've ever played. It's just it has those minor inconveniences, but they don't really stop you from like enjoying the game and declaring it as one of the best games that Capcom has developed. Despite its action-heavy finale, Resident Evil 9 stands as a monumental achievement, It honors the 30-year legacy of its characters while utilizing cutting-edge technology to push the boundaries of what survival horror can be. It masterfully balances the technical vulnerability of its protagonists with some of the smartest, most terrifying enemy design in gaming history. It is a game about confronting the ghosts of the past, both literal and metaphorical. Capcom didn't just stick the landing on this era of Resident Evil, they detonated the runway. It is a terrifying, beautiful, and unforgettable experience that cements the franchise's place on the throne of the horror game genre. It's just a perfect, almost perfect mixture of all the games. I think it's almost like a celebration of Resident Evil, if I'm being honest. I know it's an anniversary or whatever, and the franchise is far from over, but it feels like the end of a chapter. It feels like the end of what we know as Resident Evil, like Raccoon City, Umbrella, and we're moving on from that to something bigger and scarier than Umbrella and Raccoon City. And the introduction of Grace was also pretty good. It wasn't just, oh, here's a new character, fuck it. You know, you learn who she is, you learn the person that she is, and you learn how, and you see how she grows and changes throughout the game. In the beginning, you know, she's like, she kind of is like, I wouldn't say she's antisocial, but she's kind of awkward, and like, you know, she doesn't know how to deal with giant things, and she's just there. And then at the end of the game, she's like basically Emily's mom, right? And then Leon, they're never gonna fucking retire Leon, if I'm being honest. Like, yeah, homie is like fucking 50, 60 years old, but motherfucker's still more athletic than I am, and I'm in my quote unquote prime. And I think this is a perfect way to make Resident Evil games, is a balance of everything. I'm sure that maybe they'll just make a game just third person, just first person. But I feel like this mixture of both first person, third person, and the different styles of the way of the other games, I think that's what Resident Evil should be now, in my opinion. I think it's a perfect blend of what old school players like, that the third person, you know, survival horror, and the modern first person Ethan Winters saga. Because I'm gonna be completely honest with you, I didn't really start playing Resident Evil until Ethan Winters, until Resident Evil 7. Like, I knew the basics of the lore and the story from the previous games, I just never got to play them. Especially because, you know, when those games were in their prime, like the original releases of Resident Evil 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. Well, for one, I wasn't even fucking alive. Or if I was like, I was 1 or 2 years old. So I never got to play the original games. Once I got older and started playing the PS2, PS3 era, that's when Resident Evil 4 also peaked. But I didn't play them because, one, I didn't really buy too many games because it's poor. And also because I'm not gonna buy a horror game, and I think at that time I had no idea what Resident Evil was to begin with. I think I saw the movies during that time. I think that was my introduction to the franchise. The original movies from like the early 2000s, mid 2000s. But I don't remember if I saw the movies first or I saw the games first. I did try playing Resident Evil 6, but I stopped because I had no idea what the fuck was going on, and I kept seeing like really bad reviews about it, so I was like, I'm not gonna waste my time with it. It wasn't until Resident Evil 7 when I truly dove into the Resident Evil world, and at first it did take me a while to play it because I was scared as fuck. I think Resident Evil 7 is one of the scariest Resident Evil games in the franchise. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm right, but I think Resident Evil 7 is the scariest game of all of them. Not gonna lie. And that really made me fall in love with the franchise. I played Resident Evil 7. I played Resident Evil 4 Remake, Resident Evil 2 Remake. I didn't play 3 because people were saying it's kind of like a mid-game. So I just saw like gameplay and lore about it. Resident Evil 5. I didn't play Resident Evil 5 either, and I'll also be honest with you, I haven't played any of the spin-offs like Revelations, Veronica, any of that shit. But I will play Veronica when the remake comes out. As of the making of this video and the upload, I'm recording this in June 2026. It's after Summer Game Fest, so I'm definitely gonna play the remake when it comes out. I'm excited for that. So yeah, I'm not like, I guess you can argue I'm a fucking LARPer when it comes to Resident Evil, because I've only played a handful of the games, but I still like the franchise. I think the lore is very interesting. I think it's a unique take on the zombie genre, even though technically it's no longer zombies. It's more of just bioweapons and genetic mutations rather than just fucking zombies. But that goes to show that how the franchise has grown. The original game back in the fucking 90s, it was a zombie outbreak. But now it's more of a bunch of government secrets, government cover-ups, and a bunch of other, you know, organizations that are far worse than Umbrella, because the franchise wants to stay alive. Not only, you know, as a franchise, that's because it's good. They have to really evolve and grow the story, not just Umbrella bad, kill Umbrella, figure out the cure or whatever. Even though we did find the cure in Resident Evil 9, but we lost it all or some shit. I don't know. They really have to evolve. Like I said earlier, it's a conclusion to the original Resident Evil, but at the beginning of the next chapter of the franchise. Like, I think we're moving away from Raccoon City, Umbrella, and, you know, everything that, and then we're moving towards another corporation. Like I said earlier, another corporation, another more villains, much more scarier shit. So we'll see where Capcom goes with this franchise, and then we'll see if Veronica, the remake, adds new lore or it's just a straight up remake. So I'm looking forward to that. And I'm also looking forward to Grace. What's gonna happen with her? Is she gonna be a permanent member of the games? Also, Rosemary, Ethan and Mia's daughter. Like, the last time we saw her, it was in the Resident Evil DLC 16 years, I believe, 15, 16 years into the future, which is what, 2037 ish. From the point of view of when it takes place in the timeline of the game. Like, are we ever gonna play as her at some point? Are the games gonna time skip into the future and not be? Because I think the games are in our time. Like, Resident Evil 9 takes place in 2026, I believe. Yeah, it takes place in October 2026. Isn't that when it like released actually? So are we gonna are we gonna see Rosemary in a Resident Evil game in fucking 10 years from now? Nah, I highly doubt it. Honestly, I wouldn't put it past them if they fucking do like some kind of time travel shit. I mean, it's a fictional world. They might. I don't know. But anyway, I got way too sidetracked. This was a Resident Evil 9 video, and I became a whole predictions and speculation videos about the future of the franchise. So yeah, let me know what you thought about Resident Evil 9. Is there anything I missed? Is there anything I said wrong? Anything you agree with? Any of that? Please like and share, subscribe. And I'll see you hopefully soon. I know I lagged a little bit again. I got another big boy job, so I've been a bit busy doing that and being lazy making videos. So yeah, I'll see you soon. Bye.